Okay, we will now be resuming open meeting. Okay, I will now report on, right here. Report on closed session. So during closed session, the board voted 5-0 to approve the stipulated expulsion agreement for expulsion for case SE 001 for the 2021-22 school year. We also discussed item 2, closed session item pursuant to Government Education Code 45954.8 regarding conference with real property negotiations, and we also discussed item 3 regarding closed session items pursuant to Government Code 54957.6 on conference with labor negotiations, employee organization, ETA, and CSCA. Our next item is, we have an item of interest regarding Educator Effectiveness Block Grant by Mrs. Virginia Castro.
Good evening, President Mendez and members of the governing board. So I promised you a few board meetings ago that this was going to be the year of lots of plans, and I am making sure that I'm good on that promise. So here's another plan for your information tonight and approval in the future. So we are recipients of the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. We received a similar type grant about 5 years ago. So for some of you, it might look familiar. What is the EEBG, as we call it, the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant? It's a one-time funding that's provided to county offices of education, to schools, to charter schools, in order to provide professional learning for teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals, in order to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. So this plan, the expenditures can take place over the next fiscal school years up until 25-26. So we're required to develop a plan, which we've done, adopt it by December 30th. So tonight it's just informational for you, and at the next board meeting we are going to ask that you approve our plan. We did receive a total allocation in our district for $2,008,386,000, which does seem like a lot, but if you looked at the plan, it goes very quickly with some of the things that we have in place. So there are 10 allowable professional development areas according to the Ed Code. The first one is coaching and mentoring. The second one is programs that lead to effective standards-aligned instruction in all content areas. Third, practices and strategies that re-engage pupils and lead to accelerated learning. 4 is strategies for social emotional learning, trauma-informed, mental health, and suicide prevention. 5 are practices to create positive school climate, such as MTSS, restorative justice, diversity, gender, and equity training. 6, strategies to improve inclusion practices. 7, instruction and education to support English learners' bilingualism and biliteracy. 8 is any new professional PD. 9 is, this is a legislation, ethnic studies, that you might be aware of. We are going to be required to offer ethnic studies to our 7th and 8th grade students. And 10 is monies specifically allocated for classified educators and our early childhood education. So what we did is we came together and we identified, based on our data and our current needs, the areas that we wanted to allocate funding towards. So coaching and mentoring our new teachers, we always want to make sure that they're part of our beginning teacher program. We offer a new administrator training and contracted trainings. So in the summertime, we, based on our MTSS goals and our CSACE plan, which is our over-identification of students with disabilities, we wanted to make sure that we streamlined our SST process. So we did contract a trainer who came and trained our principals in that. So we always want to allocate our funding and our trainings where we see a need. Standards-aligned programs to improve literacy in content areas. So this is an area where we've identified, again, according to our data, 2 areas that we felt a need because of COVID and the pandemic. So integrated ELD, our ELs and our long-term English learners, are students that historically have not performed as well as we'd like them to. So we have developed some trainings and focused some of our resources specifically to this group of students, as well as our interventions. So our intervention teachers, how we're utilizing the data to align resources to students that are not at grade level. So we wanted to make sure that we offered PD in these areas. Re-engaging students and pupils. A few years ago, we had a very popular summer course catalog for teachers, and our teachers really enjoyed this. We offered different types of professional learnings for them that they could take. It was a college type course catalog that we offered, and we had a variety of different trainings that was very well received by our teaching staff. So we're going to utilize some of these monies to offer teacher training in the summertime as well, when they have a minute to breathe, because it has been a hectic 2 years. Strategies to improve student well-being. So we've shared our MTSS plan with you. We have provided trauma-informed professional development training for our teachers, but we are aware that our students have come to us with a lot of needs. The pandemic has been very taxing on our families, on our students, on their social emotional health. So we want to make sure that we continue providing teachers with resources and professional development to continue to address the needs that are arising in their classroom. And also suicide prevention. We want to make sure that we stay on top of the legislation, but also the needs that our children are presenting. So making sure that our teachers and our staff are equipped to handle suicide risk assessments, suicide aligned classroom training, classroom instruction, our curriculum, our cognito training. We want to make sure that we continue to provide this as well. Practices to create a positive school climate. So this year we've rolled out our MTSS plan, and that's it's been very successful so far, but we know we still have a lot of work to do. So making sure that the teachers have the resources and the tools that they need to create a diverse and equitable classroom, that they can address anti-bullying campaigns. What does progressive discipline mean? Restorative justice, all of those things. We want to make sure that we are allocating some of these resources to ensure that our educators know how to create positive school climates. Strategies to improve inclusive practices. So we have embarked on universal design for learning, and this is really closing the achievement gap of our students with disabilities and making sure that we are not only addressing the needs of our students already identified, but we're preventing those that are close to being identified because they're working below grade level. So our intervention programs with specific emphasis on phonemic awareness, speech and language intervention programs, reading comprehension and math. We want early intervention programs for our little ones that the data showed us are where we are identifying more kids with IEPs. So putting things into place where our teachers know what to look for, that they have resources available on hand. We want to make sure that our school psychologists receive professional development that they need, and the latest forms of assessments, behavior support, and our occupational therapists and speech and language pathologists as well. Instruction and education to support English learners' bilingualism and biliteracy. So we did roll out our Project GLAD training this year, and that's guided language acquisition design. I did present a presentation to you a few meetings ago, and what this is was a result of our CSACE plan, and that was our over-identification of Hispanic students with a specific learning disability, our LTELs, our ELs, and we realized that there's a gap in the acquisition of language. So we did want to offer our teachers a way to focus on vocabulary, to focus on content language, and language acquisition in all the content areas. So this is an area that we have invested money, and we want to continue to do so. Biliteracy training on curriculum and programs. So making sure that our bilingual programs, our dual language programs, that those teachers have the resources and the training that they need. New professional PD. So this part of the plan speaks specifically to networking, and we do have a partnership with our Los Angeles County Office of Education for our new teachers to clear their credential. And they call it the BTP, the Beginning Teacher Programs, and we always make sure that we send our teachers there and that we align our teachers with a mentor teacher here at our school district. So making sure that we have sub monies for the new teachers to be able to get subbed out and go watch their mentor teachers teach or other qualified teachers teach, and vice versa, making sure that their mentor teachers also get sub out days to go and visit their mentees, offer feedback, and just do walkthroughs throughout their campuses so that they can get the latest and greatest strategies from their colleagues or other schools, making those alliances with our teachers. Ethnic studies. So this is a new legislation that is going to require all public school students to, in grades 7th through 12th grade, to receive ethnic studies. So more to come on that, but we want to make sure that we have resources allocated for teachers once we adopt that curriculum. And that year will, I think we have till 25-26 school year to embark on this journey. And we have allocated funds for universal TK. So you may have heard that our TK rules are changing. The grades that we are going to be required to take on as TK students is lowering. So this is going to require some changes and adjustments to the programs that we bring forth for our students, making sure that our teachers are equipped with child development strategies, social emotional learning. So not only for the preschool team, but also our TK teachers. So allocating funds. So as we develop these plans, we have strategies and resources for our teachers. Development strategies, literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning for our early childhood teachers. We always want to make sure that we're providing our teachers with what they need. So as partners in our PD, we always put out surveys. So this time we put out a survey to all of our staff, including our paraprofessionals, and we asked teachers, what is it that you need? And these were the top 3 based on our staff survey that they identified. So more Linda Mood Bell trainings, and this is specific phonics and or reading comprehension, and our data supports this as well. So these are areas that we've identified as a district that we need more support in. Writing, we are going to embark on looking for ways to support our teachers in writing. Our last adoption, this is an area that our teachers felt it didn't support writing as well as we had hoped. So we've offered different things, but we need more. And we're going to be looking at different ways to support our teachers with writing in PD and social emotional learning. Our teachers have time and time again shared the needs that our students are presenting in the classrooms returning from the pandemic. So we want to make sure that we continuously offer them support and professional training. So our next steps at the next board meeting, we are going to ask that you approve our plan, and that board meeting will be December 13th. So at this time, if there are any questions or comments regarding our plan that is attached to tonight's agenda, if you have any questions.
I just had one, or I guess it'll be part of the next thing too, but like kind of the timeline for the implementation, is the intent that everything will kind of start at the same time and then happen, or are we doing like one section and then the next and the next?
So we always use the data to drive our initiatives, and we're trying to be very cognizant this year. Our teachers are tired, and we know that. We want to be respectful of that. So we are definitely going to come up with a timeline on when and how these initiatives roll out. We also have our science adoption coming this year. So we want to make sure that we space these initiatives out. And while we do need to address the learning gaps, we also need to be protective of our teachers and their mental sanity. So timing that and coming up with a realistic timeline where initiatives not only get rolled out, but they also get sustained and maintained, because that takes a lot of work as well, right? So like GLAD, for example, we don't want it to be just a one and done. We want to see GLAD sustained throughout the years. That's why we've invested such a large amount the year that we received these monies, because we want to make sure that we can sustain it.
Yeah, I really like that we're able to do all these kind of different components, because I think in the end, it all comes back to the students and all the ways that they're going to benefit from it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, and one question, just some clarity. How long does the district have to spend the funding? Till
So this is a
25,
5-year
26?
plan.
Okay.
We have until 25, 26. 2025-26 school year.
Thank you.
I have a question, if you can provide more information on that speech and language intervention.
So we actually started one this year, the Alfie class. I'm going to look at Mr. Lopez Mena, who's in the audience, and that's when we looked at our CSACE data and we looked at the children and when they were qualifying for special ed, we found an astronomical number in our 3-year-olds. So our 3-year-olds coming into Head Start and preschool were identified as having a language disability. So we started these workshops where parents attend with their little ones, and they're run by our speech and language pathologist, where they're learning strategies and they're learning language and vocabulary in order to intervene before the kids are qualified for an IEP for speech and language. So we hope to be able to expand some of these workshops for parents through our Head Start and our partnership with our Head Start and our preschool teachers, and continue to offer additional workshops so that we can have an intervention before the kids are identified.
Thank you.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
concerning teaching English language learners. Are our teachers trained in how to teach pronunciation, not just repeat after me, but actually how to use the articulators to say and pronounce correctly? Because if you don't teach how to say it properly, they can hear again and again and never do it. So pronunciation is a special field. Years ago, I attended many in-services and we were told, oh, pronunciation comes naturally in the second language. It never does. So I would recommend you might explore some techniques on accent prevention, because once that first language pronunciation imposed in the second language, it's very difficult to remove it.
So in short, our teachers are trained yearly for systematic ELD, which is our ELD curriculum. And we require ongoing support for teachers teaching ELD. Okay. So when we hire the teachers, they receive an extensive training on how to support ELs in their classroom. And when teachers are identified on their campuses as the ones who will take on the ELs in the rotations, because we do regroup for ELD, then those teachers either receive a refresher course, or if they've never taught ELD, they receive the full gamut. And we have 3 of our TOSAs that are dedicated to support teachers in the ELD instruction. And I totally understand where you're coming from. We will explore the pronunciation. I was an English learner, so I know when I was a little girl, I had a very thick accent that I worked my entire life to get rid of. And sometimes it comes out, especially when I'm upset. Dr. Garcia can attest to that.
Thank you.
But I'll look into the pronunciation. I do know that cognates and different strategies are a part embedded in the program. But it's definitely something that I'll look into, Mr. Segrist.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have an additional question. Just curious to know, is there an annual audit when it comes to the funding and how everything is going on? Is there an audit process?
An audit for these plans that we're writing?
Right.
Yes. So all of these plans are part of our FPM, so our federal programs monitoring. This plan, the EEBG, it will be audited internally, but all of the plans that we've presented this year are part of our federal program monitoring. And there's different steps. So they go through LACO, they go through the CDE, but they are part of our annual audit.
And when our annual auditors come in every year, the audit guide hasn't come out yet. Usually in the state of California, they pass laws, and then halfway through the year, the audit guide will come out with the list of details that auditors are required to audit. So that usually comes out in the next month or two, and in there there'll be specific information on what they will be looking for in the audit. So when auditors come out every year, they'll be auditing the use of the funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for the information and just
Thank
being
you.
cognizant of the teacher feedback and not overwhelming them with too many things all at once, right? Because we know that they're always juggling a lot on their plates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now be moving on to communications. We have one public comment submitted by Chantel Garcia.
Hello, my name is Chantal Garcia. I have 2 young daughters at Clemenson, and today I just wanted to touch base with you guys on any upcoming COVID mandate for the vaccine. So I know all of you are aware, because I follow you guys on the website, about the FDA meeting on October 26th. I don't know if any of you guys got to watch the entire thing, but I was a little horrified. At the end of that, one of the doctors literally stated, we just don't know how safe this vaccine is until we start giving it. That alone just let a lot of parents not feel at ease about this, and so I'm here today to just try and represent those feelings. Right after that, there was another doctor, I believe his name was Cody something. He also stated that I am afraid that if we approve this, that states are going to start mandating this for children, and I do not agree with that. So with that being said, if you guys are following up on any of these cases, if you look at the CDC, any child 17 and under since the pandemic has happened, only about 680 something deaths have happened. Now, if you compare that to any other virus, such as the flu, a pneumonia, common cold, children have the same death rate to those as they do to COVID. If you also look at the CDC, you'll see that 0.01 to 0.026% is of all children who end up passing away from COVID. In addition to that, if you look at the vaccine rates on VAERS, that will show you that just in 2021 alone, the rates of deaths due to vaccine have literally skyrocketed. I'm not against vaccines, but I am against the mandate. I think that should be optional. I think that the parents should be able to choose whether to vaccinate their children or not. And with the CDC also saying that masks are still required, even if you have a vaccine, that will also show you that people who are vaccinated are just as contagious as people who are non-vaccinated. Another thing to consider is the state is still not acknowledging any natural immunity to these, and a lot of our students have already come up with these COVID cases, and I haven't seen another student get a second case so far in our district, meaning that the immunity does work, and there has been doctors to speak on this. I do also urge you guys to follow, if you are on social media, a woman whose profile is under Rooted Wings. She also shares a lot of doctors' information and a lot of speakers around San Diego, around Los Angeles, to just share a lot of information with you guys when you make this decision. One more thing I wanted to comment on is the mask requirements for our students. I do feel that our students should not have to wear our masks anymore. I understand that is for everybody's protection, but I also feel that that should be an option. My daughter alone has got sent to the office over 4 times after recess because of dizziness or headaches. And she tells me, it just gets really hot when I'm playing and I can't breathe. I feel like I've heard this from other parents as well. And I've also followed, there's another foundation called Let Them Choose and Let Them Breathe down in San Diego. They had a lawsuit against their school district for the mask mandate and the vaccine mandate. their mask mandates got thrown out because the judge had said that as state of California, the masks are not a mandate, they are just guidelines, meaning that you as the district have the option to take that away as a requirement. So I am just asking you guys to discuss that as well, is maybe taking masks away or making them optional for the parents who still feel comfortable with their children coming to school without one. Again, I'm not against people who are for the vaccine or who are for wearing the mask, but I do feel like with all of these statistics coming up, that we should really take a look a little bit deeper to see what's really best for our students and how we can really help them thrive, especially at this age. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any written communications?
No written communication has come forward.
Okay. At this point, we'll move on to board member communications, starting with Ms. Cobian.
Okay, I'll just start with just thanking our parent for speaking. We always appreciate hearing from our community. So, we know that's your time, and we definitely appreciate hearing your comments. So thank you. I also just wanted to acknowledge this week with parent-teacher conferences, all the time that's put into, keeping track of what our students have been up to and grade reporting and all of that for our teachers. So thanking everyone and appreciating that there are the options for parents to do it virtually or in person this year. And I think that's a really nice acknowledgement of the situation that we're in. So that's my update for today. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Rivas?
Thank you. Excuse me. Looking forward to the CSBA AEC, our opportunity as board members to learn together with other board members across California, from each other and from other experts. So it's always a really great growing experience. And then as delegate, I'll be arriving early to participate in the delegate meetings that week as well.
Ms. Rivas?
Yes, just to echo a little bit on the sentiments shared by Mrs. Cobian. Thank you to our community, our parents, for voicing, for expressing, and their voice or say here. Thank you so much. Also, I want to just commend the efforts on the district for all of the resources that are being shared throughout our community during this COVID, because we continue to be in this pandemic. All of the resources shared at the Jeff Seymour Family Center. So thank you so much for that. And again, CSBA, looking forward to that. And I know they have great strands on equity, finance, and community engagement. I mean, I've looked at all of that, and it's just great, and I'm looking forward to that. So looking forward to that conversation right now in a few minutes.
Mr. Segrist?
Yes, I would like to boast a little bit about El Monte City Veterans Day ceremony. Was absolutely wonderful. Mayor Ancona and staff presented a wonderful celebration. And one thing that I really have to take away from that is they announced the construction of a Plaza Ortiz. It's a complex on Tyler and Valley. It's named after, believe it or not, an Almontean veteran from the Korean War whose remains were delivered last year, 70 years later. Plaza Ortiz will have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. The cost of the rent's $750 to $1,400. So maybe we should contact the city and find out about the affordable housing available to people here and keep our students and families in our city. And I will confess that I'm very embarrassed for living in this community. I attend many soccer games in Orange County, Irvine, all over Southern California outside of our community. We have nothing to compare with the soccer facilities outside of our community. I'm talking about state-of-the-art soccer facilities for children in other communities. We had Pioneer Park, that was closed. We don't have enough parks for our children now. I would encourage us to work with the local districts around us and the city. Let's develop a complex, a soccer facility at state-of-the-art like they have in other communities. Our children have to go play on those facilities, and when they're there, they say, why don't we have these back here? So, and I'd like to pursue that even further. I'd like to brag about the Amana Union High School District. They were giving the booster shots, which I got. I received them, my wife did. However, I wish they had invited somebody from our district, some teachers, to be there with the children. Some of those children were totally terrified about getting their vaccination. I tried to control a couple of them, and it worked. I said, I'm depressed. I only got one vaccine. I wanted to get 4 today. And some of the kids kind of cheered up with that. Really? I go, yes. Our Vietnamese community has approached me and some other people that I know. They want us to begin to offer Vietnamese dual language immersion because we have a lot of children who are of Vietnamese extraction. And one of the leaders, Mr. Luan, said, oh, where would you get the teachers? I said, well, I did my research. Cal State Fullerton has a bilingual authorization program in Vietnamese, Mandarin, and Hmong. So the teachers are available there. And they even have it for Filipino, by the way. So I would suggest that we begin to explore Vietnamese dual language immersion. I spent 3 days online with the CLSBA convention, and I was very astounded to find out that ethnic studies in California is only going to include 4 different ethnicities, leaving everybody else out. They did announce that in the state of Arizona, it's illegal to have ethnic studies. That's gone into the courts already. There are many legal challenges. And I would say if you're going to do ethnic studies, you talk about all the ethnicities, not just limit it to 4 only. But overall, the CLSBA convention online was beautifully done. The presentations on the need to serve all students and not leave anybody out. And I will say something about our community. I meet many parents who have our children in the schools here, and I have not met one parent yet who says the child does not use the Khan Academy. So the word's getting out there all over El Monte. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. And for myself, I'd like to share the visit that we had with State Superintendent Tommy Thurmond. So I was really lucky enough to represent the board, on my term as board president. It's been mostly virtual. So it's nice that towards the end this term, I was able to represent the board in that way. And yeah, no, he came for the purpose, initially he came for the purpose to see our amazing breakfast and lunch program that we've been offering, because that's something that the state is pushing, breakfast for all and lunch for students. So it started off with, he went right away into the kitchen. He was serving lunches. And then me and Ms. Castro were assigned to passing out the trays. We were like, let's please have us do something besides down here. So we're passing out trays. And it gave me an opportunity to see what the lunches were. They had green chicken enchiladas, which they were so gracious enough to give me one because I had to go back to work. And so I got one for the road. So they were very good. So I want to compliment our nutrition department for that. And then from there, he went to 2 of the classrooms, 4th grade classrooms, right? 2 4th grade, and he was just so engaging and gracious, asking the students, what they love about school and what they want to be when they grow up. And what I love too is that he shared his personal story, which I'd never heard of as well, telling the students how, he came with his parents from Panama as an immigrant, and about education and everything. And then he even asked them, who would like to go to Sacramento? And I'm like, are you hinting towards like a future field trip, towards the school? But he was really great. And then at the end, finally, I was able to kind of talk to him. And I will say this, he did ask me, so tell me, how's your board? And I said, we're good. I said, we are really good. I said, we're really focused on our equity work. We're putting more time to really talk about a conversation on how we define equity for us, right? What does it mean for us? And again, I was just saying that we were a really good team. And again, I thanked him for being there and for supporting the work that we're doing. So yeah, overall, a great visit and a great experience. All right. So then we'll be moving on to, we have our approval of minutes next. So item 1, we have consideration of approval of minutes for the October 18th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Right, from Ms. Cobian, sorry about that. Ms. Cobian, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Weathers. Are there any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I must abstain because I only heard most of the minutes, but not the whole thing, so I'll be abstaining. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion carries 4-0. Next, item 2, we have consideration of approval of minutes for the October 25th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. Seegers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivas. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Okay. Now we're moving on to our action and consent agenda. So at this time, are there any items board members like to pull at this time to vote separately? And always a reminder, you're always able to ask questions and discussion on any of the items when we vote as well. But specifically, are there any items you'd like to pull to vote separately?
I'd like to pull item 7.
Item 7 by Ms. Cobian. Any others? Okay, I will now ask for a motion for the action and consent agenda minus item 7.
I so move.
Motion by Ms. Rivas. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Huertas. Are there any questions or discussion regarding the items minus 7? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. So now we will be looking at separately item 7, consideration of approval for school plans for student achievement by Ms. Cobian.
Yeah, I had some follow-up questions related to this, particularly in the parent engagement category. Just maybe we could have a little more explanation about the measurement that was chosen, and because I know all the schools had the same measurement using Parent Square, and kind of what that means for our schools.
Sure. So in the past, we've used our California Parent Survey as one of the engagement tools and measuring tools. Unfortunately, last year, because of COVID, that wasn't available to us. We consider our school plans living documents, and we always want to make sure that the data presented we are able to improve upon. So we did utilize something that was consistent throughout the district at all the schools. And what we plan on doing this year to measure parent engagement is collect all of the attendance forms for the parent meetings and then start a baseline this year so that next year we have something to improve on. Parent engagement is a huge priority for us, and we want to make sure that we are keeping track and that we always offer parents ways to be involved in our school district and at our school sites. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we were a little bit limited last year in how we had access to parents and measuring that. So we hope to improve that for next year.
Yeah, I think in looking at them, I think the schools had some really good strategies for engaging parents, and I just want to make sure that we're capturing the accountability piece in a way to kind of measure that, and then identify those areas, if we get more parents attending a back-to-school night because it's, there's a virtual offering, and maybe we have more engagement in that way, or less, we don't know. So I think we're in a new phase for that kind of stuff, and I think it's a really neat opportunity for us, so thank you. That resolves my question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question on that item as well. So I noticed that a few of the schools were still referencing perfect attendance, and then other schools were making comments about improving attendance. And so I was just wondering, really it's a minor question, but what kind of supports the district or guidance the district is giving to our schools related to attendance and improving attendance, and what kind of recognition that we're giving to our students?
So that is an interesting question because as far as we know, we are still part of the dashboard is still attendance. That's one of the areas that they're going to be measuring our school climate. We have the same supports in place. Of course, it looks different this year because we are encouraging parents to keep their children home if they don't feel well, right? So in the past, we were a little bit more relaxed. If a child had a headache, we would make some exemptions. But this year, unfortunately, because of COVID and because of the fear of transmission and exposure, we have to be a lot more strict with sending students home and not allowing students to come to school. As far as attendance supports, we have our outreach consultants. We continue to have attendance rallies, attendance initiatives, incentives for kids, And we've also had our Saturday school to make up attendance. So we're trying to do the best that we can, given the circumstances, but also adhering to the state guidelines. So those haven't been relaxed, and we're still held accountable to our ADA and our perfect attendance. But the reality is that we need to make sure that our kids are safe.
Yeah, thank you. It looked like some of the schools were moving towards acknowledging great attendance rather than perfect. But I saw some of the language in there still for a few of the schools. So, yeah, I was more curious about that piece of it.
We've also guided our principals into accepting the independent work as an alternative for attendance. So if the students are working at home and are completing the packets when they're quarantined or sent home because of an exposure, they still have the opportunity to make up those those absences.
Yeah, thank you. And I see that the Saturday school is back as well, so that's great.
It's back and it's exciting, the number of students that we've had in attendance, but I'll share that in my cabinet report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so is there a motion for item 7?
I'll move to approve item 7.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Cobian. Is there
I'll
a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivas. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. All right, we will now be moving on to our actions. Item 1 is consideration of approval of purchase orders.
President Mendez, members of the governing board, before you is the October purchase order report. There's 243 purchase orders listed, totaling $521,000. We're buying a lot of pandemic-related items on this purchase order report. $53,000 of personal protective equipment, $52,000 of additional hand soap and cleaning product, and $41,000 of replacement filters for air purifier machines when our machines eventually are in need of replacing the filters.
I have a question. How regular, I don't know if you have this information, but are teachers regularly using the air purifier machines? Because I know it was like an optional item. Is that something that you've seen that they're consistently using?
Actually, if I
go
can
ahead.
speak to that, I've been visiting schools, which has been so wonderful to just be back in the classrooms. And it's one of the things that I'm thoroughly impressed by, the quality of the machines, right? They're not loud, and they are being utilized throughout the district. And so it's just great to see that they're on. They're in a place where they, are able to circulate the air in the classroom. And the teaching and the instruction still happens. We did provide teachers with a little microphone, right? Because we know that with the masks, sometimes our voice gets a little mumbled. But they're non-invasive and they're being utilized.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion for item 1 on purchase orders?
I'll move to approve item 1.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Cobian. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Seegers. Are there any questions or discussion regarding item 1? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, the motion carries 4-0. Okay, moving on to item 2, we have consideration of approval of annual and 5-year developer fee report resolution for the 2021-22 school year.
So this is a required annual report and 5-year report. In order to always be in compliance, we take the 5-year report every year to the board and just on a rolling basis, so we're never out of compliance. A few years back in 2015, the city of San Clemente had to refund over $10 million of developer fees back to some of the developers or property owners that paid the fees. So we took note of that and we make sure that we're always in compliance. We issue a fee of $3.36 per square foot for residential and commercial construction. Commercial construction has a rate of 54 cents per square foot, and that fee is shared between the high school district and the elementary district. And so on this report, you have the annual revenue that we've collected and the balances that we have within the developer fee fund, which is in our Fund 25.
Thank you for that. All right, is there a motion for item 2?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Seegers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivas. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Right. Next, the next items are first reading of revised board policies. Okay. So starting with item 3, we have consideration of approval of first reading of revised board policy 0470 on COVID-19 mitigation plan. Okay, is there anything? Okay. I actually would like, no, okay. I would like to make a motion on this. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Okay. Next, we have item 4. Consideration of approval, first reading of revised board policy 3516.5 on emergency services. I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Redes. Are there any questions or discussion regarding emergency services update? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Item number 5, consideration of approval of first reading of revised board policy 4131 on staff development. I would like to move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Seegers. Are there any questions or discussion?
Only a comment about it. I think the public is not aware that teaching involves continual staff development, and I think somehow maybe we could promote the fact that our teachers and classified are always undergoing renewal of their expertise in that. So it's very important that people know that.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next, we have consideration of approval of first reading of revised board policy 6120 on response to instruction and intervention. I would like to move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Redes. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next, item 7, we have a consideration of approval of first reading revised board policy 6164.4 and the administrative regulation 6164.4 on identification and evaluation of individuals for special education. I would like to move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Segrist. Are there any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Item 8, we have consideration of approval of first reading revised board policy 6164.41 and administrative regulation 6164.41, children with disabilities enrolled by their parents in private school. I would like to move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Cobian. Any questions or discussion? I do have one question for this, and I'm sure Ms. Castro can answer. What's typically just a really quick process? You know, you have a parent whose child's enrolled in private school, they're interested in assessment. What's kind of like that basic process for them to receive an evaluation?
So the parent is entitled to an evaluation now. They can work with us, and our team will go out and help that child receive the services. So we've actually engaged in a few in the past couple of years, a 504 plan, a disability assessment. So the process is the same.
Okay. And at any part of the process, are we, you know, typically when we have our students here, we know like the district of residence because we verify residency. Is that same for us? Like how, is there a process for verifying residency, or we just go based off of the fact that they're enrolled in a local private school?
We go based on the fact that they're enrolled in a local private school in our area.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. All in favor of this item?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. And our last one, consideration of approval of first reading of revised board policy 6164.5 and Administrative Regulation 6164.5 on student success teams. I would like to move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Suarez. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you for that. Next, we have our discussion session, starting with our cabinet reports. Mr. Herrera?
Yes, we're very excited to continue offering food resources to our families next week. Even though we're not going to have school during the Thanksgiving break, we're going to offer a week's worth of food to approximately 800 students. So our food services team is working very hard to make sure we can get those week's worth of meal boxes ready to go. They'll have turkey, ham, stuffing, rolls, fruit, and milk. And we're working with our schools and our community liaisons to identify the families that are most needs so we can have the food resources sent out to them. And we're very excited, as well as Ms. Mendez mentioned, to have State Superintendent Tony Thurman come out to our school, Rio Hondo, to check out our lunch program. Our food services staff was very excited to have a special visitor, and he even mentioned the good work that they do. I think he mentioned his back was sore after passing out the meals. So I think he got a greater appreciation of the work that our lunch ladies do every day.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera. Ms. Castro?
Thank you, President Mendez. I just wanted to share that in terms of attendance and making up absences, we've had an extraordinary amount of students participating in our Saturday Learn Academy. Our first session, we had 642 attendees, and at the last Saturday, we had 629. And I also wanted to share that in the spirit of equity and access, we've also hired 13 ISSs to make sure that our students with disabilities who have special needs, who require one-on-ones or specialized health services, can attend as well, because we want to make sure that we continue to be an inclusive district. So I'm very proud of the work that my team has done in ensuring that all kids have access to Saturday Learn Academy. But I think that those are astronomical numbers. And I want to give kudos to Mr. Lopez Mena, who's our new Director of Support Services, and he's done a great job facilitating our Saturday school. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. So obviously, how many teachers are signing up to, I don't want to say volunteer, well, volunteer, but they get paid, obviously.
So we have teachers assigned as acting administrators. We have an administrator on call, but we partner with our Learn partners, and our youth leaders are the ones that run the program.
Oh, okay.
So we have a partnership. Our Learn youth leaders run it. Our teachers act as administrators, and then Mr. Lopez, man, I know he's been here personally, but we have all of our administrators take turns being the administrator on call. So it's a collective effort.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Sollenbeck?
Just wanted to give some updates in regards to some of the collaborations we've been able to come together with in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, you've seen the last weekend on Friday and Saturday, we held some pop-up vaccination clinics or opportunities for our community. We're pleased to also develop a partnership with the Suchi organization, which is in South Omani, but then also in other areas. Not only will they be providing us with the vaccination opportunities for our families, but then going down the road, I know that we'll be bringing something to the board, an MOU that will offer optometry opportunities along with health checks and so on. So we're excited about this new partnership with them because not only does it meet some immediate needs, it's actually we'll be able to further some health and services of that for our community as well in the future.
Thank you. Dr. Garcia?
Thank you. You know, on the vein of vaccinations, I do want to acknowledge that in our community, we've served a tremendous need as a school district to ensure that our families have access. And so although we don't have a mandate for the vaccines, we're going to continue to provide resources for those families that want to opt into the vaccine. And that's really important. We are giving parents that choice, but we still feel that we need to be that resource for our community. On Friday, we hosted a vaccination clinic at Columbia, and it was actually sold out. So we had to encourage families to show up the next day over at Gidley School And we don't know, again, where if our families have medical insurance or not. So this is a resource where we're looking to bring in partnerships that will provide the vaccine to families with no questions asked, right? And so we're going to continue to offer these resources. We're going to continue to offer the booster. We're going to continue to open up our clinics to our school community, once again, making it available for those that opt into the vaccine. I also want to remind the board that at our next meeting, we're going to be thanking President Mendez for her service as our board president. She has served tremendously during the pandemic in a virtual setting, and we will be reorganizing as a board. And so that is my commitment to you to prepare yourself for the reorganization for the board. And then lastly, I did want to share that the Tamalada will be taking place on December the 9th. This has been a wonderful tradition in our community. It's the 18th annual. A little hard to believe that it's been going on that long. But on that evening, we recognize outstanding educators with the Bobby Salcedo Esperanza Award. We don't know who the recipients are yet, but I think we'll know soon enough. And this is an invitation for the board to attend. In years past, as a school district, we have sponsored the Tamalada, and I'd like to ask for the board's consent to continue with the sponsorship for the Tamalada.
Yes, do we have to make a motion for that, or we?
No, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so I will be sharing some information with the board on more details to come so that you can participate. And then lastly, I do want to say, I know that we've acknowledged the superintendent's visit, State Superintendent Tony Thurman. But I want to say that, his visit, of course, he was highlighting our meal program. To me, I think, it was just a wonderful testament to the work that's been taking place in the Almani City School District. I think, every time our team sets out to provide a service or connect to a resource, it's been done with the utmost of integrity and respect to our school community to provide resources and services, continue to close achievement gaps and so forth. And so even though the highlight started off by recognizing our meal program, as Ms. Mendez indicated, it very quickly turned into just a celebration of all things wonderful happening in the Almani City School District. The visit was at Rio Hondo School, but I can tell you that the things that were being highlighted and celebrated are happening across the district. And again, a testament of just everybody coming together to do this tremendous and wonderful work. So I want to just applaud the board for your vision and leadership. I want to recognize all of our staff for their hard work. We have Thanksgiving coming up. I'm going to be encouraging everyone to really disconnect, take a break, and definitely be sending out a message of gratitude for everyone in the Almani City School District for all of their tremendous work, also to our parents and our families. So on that vein, I want to say thank you to you for all of your hard work and your leadership this past year.
Thank you for that. All right, next, we have item 2, our equity statement.
So President Mendez, if you don't mind, I would like to give a little context. We've been doing this work with our consultant, Nicole Anderson, and she has been leading us down the path of discussing what equity means for us as a district. And so took the opportunity to agendize the topic of equity so that the board could have an opportunity of, once again, looking at the equity statement that has been evolving through these meetings, and then to really just gather your thoughts on the process, where we are, to really help to shape and frame the work that lies ahead.
Thank you for that space. Yeah, would anyone like to start, or I can get started?
I was looking at the statement. I have some minor edits, but also some sort of conceptual things of kind of shaping it in a way that maybe we have more items and less, overall would like it to be kind of simplified. The language got a little bit confusing because they weren't run-on sentences, but a lot of clauses. So that we can make it a very accessible statement, so that even our young kids could read it and kind of understand those core things. So that's, I think, as we look at that, I don't know if we're going to have a process to do editing, but that's sort of what I would like to see as we kind of transform it.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. I think, we don't want it to be too wordy, right? We want it something that is easily read and understood by a variety of individuals. Something I like to bring up, we've been on this path, and before we started with Nicole Anderson, we started with us committee, and we formed our subcommittee by Ms. Ruedas and Ms. Rivas, and then we committed to reading the Grading with Equity book, and we wanted to kind of do a book review on that. And then we never got that opportunity. And then Dr. Garcia, you purchased for us that great book, Shattering Inequities. So I would kind of like to also just kind of go back to that, because I think, we had those two books that we read, and I think, the Grading for Equity was like one component of equity, and I think Shattering Inequities was another great read. Having an opportunity to read and discuss that, so then that way when we go back to our equity statement, we can have a little bit more perspective of what message are we trying to convey, right?
I like that a lot too. And just a note, I think it was in today's LA Times, they had an article or an op-ed talking about equity grading, basically, which was really kind of nice to highlight, because you can see that's the trend, to move away from these very rigid, kind of punitive grading to acknowledging what students are learning. So I really like that idea. Would you want to do like additional study sessions as like our?
Yeah,
book?
I'm thinking, I'll just kind of jump ahead for CSBA. We always like to have already a study session to discuss, right? CSBA, kind of come back together after that and kind of share the different, because we all attend different sessions. So maybe with that one, it could be, where we come back to discuss CSBA and what we learned, and then also have that opportunity to discuss the books that we've read.
I like that.
And not just that, maybe we can also challenge ourselves to do some extra research on that and look for additional journals, right, on equity. And then, as you mentioned, coming back from CSBA, there's going to be, I just saw the catalog of all of the breakout sessions on equity. So that would be a great opportunity to compile.
Yeah, there's going to be, obviously, they're going to
that.
give us great resources from that.
The juices are always flowing after CSBA AEC. We always come back so inspired. I like the ideas that you all have shared. Yeah, I agree with what you said, Ms. Govian, about the words, right? It's just pretty heavy with words right now. We started with something that was from the past, and then we added some things that are more current to our thinking right now, and then we just have a lot of language. In regard to our conversation last time, I think it became very clear to me, and I think this is up for discussion among the board, that this really is about student success, right? And I think that's what drives the work of equity is seeing our students succeed now and in years to come. Maybe that's my own personal statement. So I think that's for us to talk through. But for me, I was feeling like we were starting to wander from that. Like, what is this really about? So coming back to really what we would like to see, and then what we see as things that we would really like to address. So grading is one of those that has motivated some of the work as well. But other things too in our systems, that it's really an opportunity, right, to just continually reevaluate our systems and see what kind of access that we're actually giving to students, or where are we just borrowing from practices from the past without really, a lot of thought and just imposing things on students and their families. So. Yeah, so I would really welcome the continued conversation, and I think after CSBA is great timing.
Right. So then in regards to our equity assignment, what we're going to do is kind of take a little pause, where we're going to regroup, take that opportunity for our study session to discuss CSBA, but then also take the opportunity to read the books that we've committed to reading, and really having that discussion.
I think what might be helpful too is if, and maybe our equity subcommittee, or kind of come up with some guiding questions for us too, so we can, it'll help kind of, we can have these books and, but we want it to be productive for.
Good point.
That's a great way to utilize the subcommittee. And something that I was thinking as well, and I think it's probably for the future work, because we're just talking about the first step here, right? Is this equity statement. But then there's so many other steps that follow that. But it really still could be really informative if we're hearing from our superintendent and assistant superintendents about what are the real felt needs in our district, and how can we be responding to those as we do this work.
Good, sounds good. Sounds like a plan. All right, and then, what are you thinking?
Well, if I can just, I like the idea of guided questions as well for the readings, right? Because the books have a lot of information. And so I'm looking at Ms. Rivas and Ms. Redas, if we can, I'll follow up and schedule a subcommittee meeting so we can discuss, and then maybe perhaps be at the next board meeting, we can bring some dates, and then we can push out those guided questions for a follow-up.
And I think too, having information about what we are doing, because I think with the grading, there's a lot of things that are a part of our existing process. So I think that helps give us context too, and not just for the grading, but in other areas. I think we have already been on the pathway towards equity, so we don't have to start from scratch.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
All right, perfect. So then at our next board meeting, we have reorganization, but then we'll also look at dates for that study session to follow with the CSBA conference, and then all the equity books that we've been reading and the material that we have.
And is there a date for Nicole again? Did we set another date with our facilitator?
Can you repeat that?
Another date, our next facilitated?
Yes, I'll bring those dates to the December meeting because Nicole had proposed a couple of dates. One of them as early as January 10th, which I'm thinking might not work for us if we want to carve out some time in between our next meeting. So I will get back to you. I'll bring back some dates to the December meeting that can help us plan for follow-up sessions with Nicole.
Perfect.
And give us some time in between to do some work.
Yes. Okay, then moving on to item 2, we just CSB, our annual educational conference. Just one opportunity to kind of talk about that. I know for myself, I'll be attending in person. Kind of want to get a feel who else is attending in person or attending virtually. Or
I won't be there in person, although I am going to try to make it to lunch with you guys.
Okay.
So
seems like then
a lot of event going on the next week that I need to.
We will share. That's why we're going to follow up, and we're going to share everything that we learned with you.
Have we all had the opportunity to look at the breakout sessions? Should we organize in a way where we can, at least 2 of us can attend, add a few, or?
Yeah, I know we've always talked about that. Maybe what we can do is I'm always like a Google Excel spreadsheet, just throwing it out there. If we can maybe just put the strands, and then that way we can kind of see where maybe people's interest, just to kind of map it out, no pressure. Then that way we can kind of see where everyone is kind of thinking about attending. That's one idea to kind of organize ourselves.
I know that one of the strands is wellness and mental health. So there's a great breakout sessions on just on that, and equity and opportunity, of course.
Yeah, I would love to kind of just, again, what the board thinks, just kind of just have, or whether it's emailing it to Dr. Garcia to let her know what you're thinking. I know.
I'm open to coordinating in whatever way is appropriate.
I will say that there are 6 strands this year. One of them doesn't necessarily apply. It's county offices of education and how they can support school districts. Another one is community engagement and advocacy. The third strand is equity and opportunity. The fourth strand is funding and finance. The fifth strand is leadership through governance, and then wellness and mental health. So those are going to be the overarching strands that will be presented this year at CSBA.
Yeah, so like I said, either, what do you think would work best? You can either just email Dr. Garcia, like, once you kind of see the list of like, this is the schedule I'm kind of thinking of, that way we can kind of all share it and kind of see like, okay, Ms. Rivas is already attending this session, and
I really like the idea on the Google
the Google
share,
spreadsheet.
that way
Thank
we
you
can
for that.
see.
Thank you. I needed someone
everyone
back
can
me up on my
see
spreadsheet.
where everyone's at, we're thinking, right, of attending.
Yeah, whoever's interested, yeah, I would like to do that. So, yes, I'm seeing some heads nod.
Yeah, I'll put something together to make sure that it's aligned in a way where you can share your responses with me. I can turn around and share them with the board. And then that way, we're all aware of the interest throughout the board. So let me put something together, I'll push it out, and then it's something that we can use as a guide while at CSBA.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions or discussion about CSBA? Okay, I guess we'll all see each other there. All right, next is just future discussion items. We've already talked about a few things we have as a priority to discuss. I just wanted to review the one thing that we still have pending that Ms. Brothers has brought up, and I also agreed with her, is just, again, at some point looking into what we're doing as a district to be environmentally friendly, to be aware of the things that we're doing, right, in terms of, supporting and preventing climate change as much as we can, right? Being aware of that. So that is still something that's in our docket. All right, any other future items you'd like me to add to the notes? Yes, Mr. Segrist?
Yes, at a Loxta meeting, before 3 back, I was told by the people at Loxta that we have to begin to divide our district into trustee areas now. If we don't, as soon as we receive the letter from an attorney out there, and they're all over, we'll have to pay that attorney fee. If you know right now, the high school district right now is doing its division, and there's a lot of controversy about that, about how they're doing it, what the area is going to be, how many people are in it. So we really need to begin to look into beginning now to divide into trustee areas. And I had this thought about something, about declining enrollment. People are leaving our community because it's so expensive to live here. And yet everywhere I go, I see jobs available. Maybe we, at the Jeff Seymour Center, we could work with EDD to maybe help people find jobs, work with the El Monte City Housing Authority to help people find the affordable housing, because some of it's still there, even though the new houses I've seen for like $500,000, that's not affordable. But this complex that they're going to be finishing soon, the Plaza Ortiz, that's affordable. So maybe we could go a step further and help our families stay here. And I'll harp on this again. We need to have a wonderful soccer complex in our community for our children. They deserve it. I hate to have to go to Orange County, Irvine, Santa Ana, and see these wonderful sports facilities. We don't have anything like that, and we should. Also, again, the Vietnamese community is saying they want to have a bilingual dual immersion program for Vietnamese children. And Mr. Lujan is already starting a petition to ask us to do that. Finally, the El Monte, South El Monte ERA, they need funds. I talked to Lillian Ray, and she said, yes, she needs funding. The high school district has already offered a grant. They're going to be giving a grant to the El Monte, South El Monte ERA. Lillian Ray was wonderful enough to help a group of families. 5 of them will be receiving a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner thanks to her finding the turkeys from Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio. And so anyway, we should consider doing some type of a grant to El Monte, South El Monte ERA. That lady has been doing this for 45 years, and she really is a wonderful lady. If you have never met her, you really need to. She's marvelous. Thank you.
She is wonderful.
I'm over. I'm finished.
I don't have items for future discussion, but I do have just a couple of comments. On the lines of Lillian Ray, it's one thing that I've heard is that, I mean, if you find it in the goodness of your heart to donate, some of the needs would be, if families may be receiving funds for food, but soap and laundry detergent and some of those other items that can't be purchased with the food dollars are really of high need. And so, so those are some of the donations that she's looking for, is what I've heard from her in the past. I wanted to congratulate our district on a visit by Tony Thurman. It was just fantastic, and I didn't mention it before. Congratulations to you and thank you for representing the board so wonderfully. But Dr. Garcia, when you were sharing about how the things at Rio Hondo are really shared throughout the district, I was reminded of the work that you did when you first came in as superintendent to really maybe standardize some of our practices across the district, even the things like this week being parent conference week throughout the district. We used to have different parent conference weeks for the different schools, and that was one of your emphases that I recall in the early years. So to be able to see the results of those efforts, and to be able to acknowledge that the good work that's being noticed by the state superintendent is really shared throughout the district, I think is a testament to the good work of the entire cabinet. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. If you will allow me, I forgot to say one thing, Ms. Mendez, which is pretty important. As you know, we have a many wonderful traditions, and one of them being our holiday tea that we look forward to every year. And I do want to say that this year we're putting the tea once again on hold because of COVID, but it's giving us plenty of planning time to plan for next year because we're going to have the best holiday tea ever, and we're going to invite all of our retirees the way we normally do, as well as our staff. But we did decide to put the holiday tea on hold for this year, and looking forward to bringing that back in the years to come.
And I'm sure we will go all out. We'll have a Santa Claus.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity this year to be your board president. It has been an honor. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for instilling your belief in me. This has been a great growing experience. I'm really lucky to be part of this board and to work with each of you individually. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for the cabinet for being so supportive while I was learning this. This is not easy, but thank you so much for being so supportive and preparing me for every meeting and giving me the information I needed to lead these meetings. So appreciate that. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Please eat lots of turkey. My birthday falls on Thanksgiving this year, so I just want to announce that because it's always special when it falls on Thanksgiving. Okay, so I'll adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:34 p.m.